Hello friends, welcome back, or if you are brand new here, welcome. My name is Emily and I'm so happy to have you here. I make videos every Tuesday and every Saturday about books and about beauty. So today we are going to be chatting about DNFing a book. And if you are not well versed in the book online world of BookTube and Bookstagram and all of that, you might not know what DNFing means. But DNF stands for did not finish or do not finish, and that is basically abandoning a book. And I wanted to talk about why I sometimes choose to DNF and about how I've come to be okay with DNFing books. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it.
Honey?
Based on talking to my friends and people that I know a lot of people have this kind of fear of abandoning a book. You feel like you have to complete it, you have to make it all the way through if you started it. And I think part of this is the sunk cost fallacy, where you feel like you've already put this much into it, you might as well keep going. And part of it too has to do with I think some mentalities that are built up through school. So if you didn't know, I'm a 4th grade teacher, and I try to work with my kids about when it's okay to abandon a book. You don't want to just start it and then read 2 pages and then be like, I'm bored, I want to start a new book. But there are genuine times when a book is not for you, and there's lots of reasons why it's okay to abandon it. So I think a lot of people were not taught that in elementary school, and that is why so many people as adults are afraid of abandoning books. But when you think about it, why do you want to keep reading a book if you hate it, if you don't care about it, if you're not feeling connected to the characters, if it's making you not want to read because you're like, oh, I gotta finish this book before I can start a new one, but I don't really want to read that book, right? So then you just stop reading. So I think it is perfectly okay, and it's even good to make sure that you DNF a book when you feel like DNFing a book. So a couple of reasons why I have DNF'd in the past. I have gotten through a good chunk of a book, like a third or half of a book, and just stopped and felt like, I don't really connect with this story. I don't connect with these characters. I honestly do not care what happens next. And at that point, I feel like, why waste your time with the book? Because if you don't care, nothing else in the book is going to change your mind, right? So sometimes a book takes a little bit to get into, but by the time you get towards the middle, you're starting to really be invested. But sometimes if you just get to the middle and you're like, anything could happen next and I would not care about it, put that book away. Don't waste your time on it. Spend time on a book that you actually will enjoy. So another reason that I have DNF'd in the past is from really stereotypical or problematic characters. I started a book that I thought was going to be this lighthearted, fun, rom-com type book, but all of the black characters in the book were stereotypical. There was the black gay best friend hairdresser, and there were black servants in this play. It was just painful to read those stereotypes, and I was listening to it as an audiobook, and the narrator was doing these really forced, horrible accents, and it just, to me, I wanted no part in the rest of that book because it was just it felt gross, to partake in those stereotypes in any way. And it took me out of the story because they were really unrealistic stereotypes, which made it hard to be invested in the story anyway. So I have DNF'd for problematic content like that, but just in general, right? That's a reason why I'm not going to enjoy the book. If all I'm thinking about is, wow, this is a huge stereotype, or wow, this male narrator can only talk about the way that this girl looks and it's really distracting from the story, why am I going to continue, right? Put that book down, pick up something else you're actually going to enjoy. I have also DNF'd books in the past because of you might say triggering content, but sometimes you're in the mood for a dark, heavy kind of book, and other times you just want something lighthearted. And if I've gotten into a book before and then there's stuff that just heavy, hard to deal with type of stuff, like sexual assault or child abuse or things like that, if I'm reading to escape, I don't always want to read about that kind of stuff. So sometimes I have DNF'd books because it had that sort of content when I wasn't expecting it. I've also DNF'd books in the past because I just did not vibe with the writing style. This is another example of being distracted by something about the book so that it's hard to get invested. So if I really don't vibe with the writing style, then when I'm reading, all I'm thinking about is like, wow, I hate how they're writing. I don't like this narration. I don't like how this author always uses this certain word. You know, like Stephanie Meyer uses chuckled all the time. Have you seen those on Twitter of like, you know, Control F in the ebook for the word chuckled, and it's like everywhere. Something like that where it's really distracting and making it hard to appreciate the book, and combined with if you're already kind of on the fence. Because I feel like I can ignore a writing style that I hate if I'm really invested in the characters or in the plot. But if I'm kind of so-so about the characters or the plot, and then I also hate the writing style, I'm putting that book down and I'm gonna find a book I'm actually going to enjoy. And then I also wanted to touch on officially DNFing a book and just putting a book away and maybe leaving it open to pick up another time. So on my Goodreads, I do have like a shelf called DNF, and that's where I will, you know, put a book if I'm not going to review it because I didn't finish it, but I do want to note that I started it. I will put it into my DNF shelf if I know I'm not going to pick that book up again for any of those reasons that I talked about. But there are so many times where I want to kind of abandon a book for now, but I don't necessarily want to DNF officially, like never come back to that book. I hated it, it was terrible, right? So sometimes, you know, you pick up a mystery, but then you find that you're actually more in the mood for like a romance, or you pick up a book and you're not vibing with the characters right now, but maybe another time you want to give them another chance, or you pick up a book and it's like weirdly too similar to what's going on in your real life. And you're like, that hits too close to home, but I still want to know what happens, so I'm going to save that for later when I'm like through this time or whatever. So I think that that's also an underappreciated thing to do, where there's nothing wrong with saying this book is not for right now, but I want to give it another chance. So I do that all the time, and if you follow me on Goodreads, you might see a book in the like what I'm reading right now for a really long time, or you might see it in there and then disappear, and then a few months later it'll come back up. And that is just because sometimes I pick up a book and I recognize there's nothing wrong with this book, it just doesn't fit what I want to read right now, so I'm just going to put it back on my shelf or let it return to my library, and I'm going to pick up something else, and then later when I'm more in the mood for that, I will come back to it. And lastly, I just really wanted to reiterate why it is okay to DNF or abandon a book. And the first point is you do what you want with your life. Don't let anybody tell you what to do, and reading should be a fun hobby, and it shouldn't be something that causes you to feel pressured or feel like you have to do something, right? Because then it takes out the fun of it, and then it just feels like being back in school, having to read things that you don't want to read. So that's first and foremost, protect your hobbies and don't let anybody else pressure you into what they think you should do. But also, it is okay, right? It's okay to not like something, even if it's really hyped up. Even if you really thought you were gonna like something, it's okay to be wrong about that. And there are so many books in the world. Why would you waste your time with something you know you're not gonna enjoy just to get to the end, right? If you really care about the ending, look it up. Look up a synopsis, find a spoiler review, right? You'll find out. But if you are willing to DNF the book, you probably don't care that much about the ending anyway, right? So it is totally fine. If you needed permission from somebody, here I am giving you permission. Put the book down, find something that you will enjoy. Don't let your hobbies become chores, and make sure that you're actually enjoying what you're reading, right? Don't be afraid to start 10 books and put them all down until you find the one that you like, because there are millions of books out there. And I've said this since I was like in elementary school, but there is a book for everybody. Nobody should say they hate reading, because there is a book out there for everybody, you just haven't found it yet. Genuinely, I have said that like a weirdly long time. But I hope that this has helped you understand kind of why it's okay and why I personally choose to DNF or abandon certain books. And please, I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment down below and let me know reasons why you have abandoned a book in the past, Or if you have trouble abandoning books, talk about why. I'd love to have that conversation down in the comments. And please do not forget to subscribe before you leave if you want to see more videos from me. I have book videos every Tuesday and beauty videos every Saturday. And as always, everything that I'm wearing, these amazing earrings that I got from an Etsy shop called Kitten Carnage, and all this is going to be linked in the description box down below. And yes, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.